Let's go with Richard in New Hampshire. Pronouns are he, him. This is a pretty long debate. What makes someone who they are? Nature versus nurture. So, Richard, maybe you want, I don't know if you have, good. Maybe you want to, if you have like a very specific thing you wanted to get into. I know it's like a broad topic that's been debated upon for a while, but
I don't really know the answer, and I always find it fascinating. And I'm a dad of 3 little ones, and I look at my kids, and it's just weird. Like my life, I was a Catholic, and I went to Sunday school. I did my communion, everything, and my parents, my parents are religious and stuff like that, and I found my way out of there, and I'm wondering how some people can stay in it and how some people can just find a way out of it. And I don't consider myself like a very intelligent person, but I mean, it's just like things didn't make sense, and I'm always wondering why it doesn't make sense for everybody else. I just remember, like, as a child, my stepfather was like, asking my stepfather, like, oh, if I don't steal, if I don't murder, if I don't hurt anybody all through my life, and the one thing I don't do is believe in God, I'm going to go to hell. And he was like, yeah, you're going to go to hell. And it just never made any sense to me. And I'm just curious what you guys think, how someone becomes the person they are in the way of these beliefs and stuff, I guess,
Yeah, that's a really good question. I don't know if Kenneth, you want to tackle that first, or
when I saw the call screen thing about the question of what makes someone who they are, nature versus nurture, it reminded me of a talk I heard a while ago, and you may find this interesting. The guy's name is Jim Fallon, not to be confused with the comedian. This one's a neuroscientist, and he's in California, I believe. At least he was when I heard the talk. And he talks about how his lab, they were doing like brain imaging studies on like serial killers who were incarcerated in California, and that they were looking at how different brains had like you could if you were to pick like brains out of a lineup, you could identify the brain with markers for, like, I don't know exactly what the term would be like, but the psychopath brains, the sociopath brains, right? So and I wish Shannon Q was here to talk about this, but
I would want
to pick her brain. But basically what happens is the guys doing this thing, they're studying brains of people who have committed like horrific crimes, and they're seeing certain similarities structurally with the brains. And then something happens. I want to say one of his family members had Alzheimer's or dementia, and they ended up getting scans for members of his family to see who had markers for certain degenerative brain diseases. And when he's reviewing the brain scans from the family, he comes across a brain that he's described it as being like a perfect psychopath brain. And it was kind of alarming. And he goes, oh, okay, I think one of the prison study scans got mixed in with the family. So he calls over his assistant, because the scans just have numbers on them. They don't have, names on them. And he goes, hey, I think we got one of the prison brains in here. And the lab assistant person looks over the brain scan and goes, no, that's actually, that's your brain scan. And so he's looking at this and seeing that he has all these markers. And he goes to his family and he goes, isn't this wild? Like, my brain looks like the serial killer brains. And his family's reaction wasn't, oh, that's weird. His family's reaction was, that makes perfect sense. You're super weird. And they start talking to him about how they perceive him and how that changes, like it doesn't align with his self-perception and stuff. And in the talks that he gives, and he published a book about this too, there's this idea of how he thinks, or at least he did at the time I heard his talk. I don't know what his research has looked like in the last 6-8 years, but the idea being that because he had this loving family, because he was never abused, because he was sort of insulated from some of the social effects that could have turned him easily into a much uglier version of himself. He feels like that was enough to keep him safe, and to make it so that he didn't explore any like violent impulses and stuff. And so when I hear people asking about the nature versus nurture thing, I think of how interesting neuroscience is and how I think we're just scratching the surface with respect to what we know about our brains. Also with respect to psychology and how these two fields, overlap with each other. So this is a very long-winded way of me saying I have no idea why we are the way we are. I look at my own family and I see my way of looking at the world versus like my brothers who we had, fairly similar upbringings, the same house, same parents, same genetics, all this stuff, totally different outlooks on life. Very different with respect to our religious and political and social views. Why? Couldn't tell you. No idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't really done any research myself. But it's just like, it's just always in my mind, like how, like, it's just, I'm sorry. It's just like, I'm just always fascinated by it. Like what makes someone who they are when they had a certain upbringing. That's it, and I guess know what your insights were.
I think we're all three in the same boat in the sense I don't dive super deep into this or haven't, though I think you're going to spark some interest too. But there is an interesting quote that I had read by Steven Pinker. I'm curious what you think about it, because I'm kind of in that range too. There's just more. I think the way I look at it is there's a lot. I'm happy admitting there's a lot of ignorance in my biological knowledge that's going to creep in right when I need to assess this type of a conclusion. So it doesn't seem like it's fair for me to like assess some particular conclusion if I'm still assessing a lot of the datum in the first place. But he has a quote that I think is interesting. I'm kind of curious how we both would think about it. But concrete behavioral traits that patently depend on content provided by home or culture, which language one speaks, which religion one practices, which political party one supports, are not inheritable at all. But traits that reflect the underlying talents or temperaments, how proficient someone at a language is, or how religious or how liberal or conservative, are partially heritable. And I thought that was like an interesting kind of quote on it. I have how the mind works, but it's like that thick, and I don't know if anything's in there yet. So I need to dive into
about
that.
Pinker's book?
Yeah, I have it on my. It's glaring at me on my shelf, but I'm like intimidated to start it. So.
Yeah, I mean, I look at my son, and he's 7 years old, and me and his mother are not together. We have three together, and she's very different from me. The way politics, religion, like just the way we think, we're just totally different people. And sometimes I get nervous because it's like how my kids are gonna. But I look at my 7-year-old, and I feel a lot of him like me, and I'm like I hope he. I don't know. I get nervous sometimes because I hope he's and I get it's not teach him how to think, but I'm not teaching him what to think, but teach him how to think, and I try my best doing that, and I hope that's the case. What you just said, Well,
I mean, I tend to be a big fan of of Stoic philosophy, and people right now are like raising their eyebrows, wondering what kind of bro-y crap I've been reading. No, I mean like actual Stoic philosophy, and there's this idea of focusing on what we know that is within our sort of sphere of influence, and trying not to stress out about stuff that is outside of our control. And with the nature versus nurture question, I have no idea, how we could at this stage, given what we know about the brain, like quantify, okay, well, it's like 40% this and 60 that, or break it down like that in a way that would right. In a way that would be satisfying to us. I don't think that there's a satisfying answer to be found yet. And right now there are theists who are listening to this being like, well, that's how we know we're made in the image of God. No, it isn't. That's a problem. So, but it seems to me that, for people who are thinking about the project of like secular parenting, that all you can do is the best that you can do. And, and when you find out you can do better, do a little bit better, right? Isn't it Maya Angelou said something like that? yeah, do your best, and then until you can do better, and then do better, something like that. So yeah, I would say try not to beat yourself up, because there's going to be so much here that's going to be unknown. The nature part is done with respect to genetics here. So now the atmospheric environment that you can create, just do your best, man. That's all you can do.
Yeah. It is funny how like you're constantly learning, like how it's just like it's funny how like all three of my kids, it's like I feel like I'm just constantly learning, and just like, oh man, like I like how my oldest, like how I do things different from my oldest to my youngest, it is funny. But yeah, all right, thank you guys.
I think that's awesome, because like I can tell you, all you got to do is walk through any shopping mall in America, and you can see that there are a lot of parents out there who aren't learning shit. So good for you for learning.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just funny, like it's just like how my parents disciplined me and stuff like that. But yeah. Anyways, I appreciate it, guys, and have a good night.
All right.
Yeah.
Take care.
Thank you, Richard. Appreciate it. Yeah, and I think I'll be calling you. I guess in springtime, once you have your little one, or a little longer than that. If I ever have a kid, I'm like, Kenneth, I don't know what to do.
Yeah. I'm scared to death.
Yeah, I had heard some interview with somebody, I can't remember who, or I think it was like Taylor Hawkins and Dave Grohl from Foo Fighters, and talking about how his first time he was with his kid, it's like, I don't know what to do. Called Dave. It was like, this is like the first moment that makes you like, this is your first real responsibility that you actually have,
Yeah.
So.
I wish there were more resources out there. Maybe I just don't know about them for secular parents. I would say anybody out there who's watching, who's plugged into the Facebook communities, that could be a cool thing for us to rally around this week. If you've got resources for secular parenting, bring them on over to the Fan Run Facebook page and share what you got.
Yeah.